killed people to protect that secret. And as I've told you all along, I don't care if that's what it's about or not. I want to know what they know, or I want them to explain why they can't. All we know is that the accusations from Grush were profound enough that Congress invited him to be the key witness at an historic UFO hearing. There, he repeated many of his claims from the interview, but said he personally faced retaliation. Listen. Have you faced any retaliation or reprisals for any of your testimony or anything on these lines?
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say. It was very brutal and very unfortunate, some of the tactics they used to hurt me both professionally and personally, to be quite frank. Yeah.
Now, some saw that as Grush being dramatic. Well, now it seems that Grush is saying the government leaked his personal medical information to smear him, discredit his claims that he made against them. Joining us now is the man who interviewed him for that News Nation special, Ross Coulthart. It's good to have you, Ross. Thank you for doing this.
Good to be here, Chris.
So, Ross, tell us, what is the nature of the information that has come out, and why do we believe that it had to come from someone in government?
Okay, so earlier today, David Grush received an approach from a news magazine, an online news magazine called The Intercept. They're doing their jobs, that's fine. They've been fed information. The problem is the information that they've been fed is information that David had already privately disclosed to us and actually volunteered in his interview with me. It was a section of the interview that didn't go to air. But basically, he discussed with us when I asked him whether there was any dirt that anybody could drag out to try to discredit him. He barely thought this was worth mentioning, but he acknowledged that he'd suffered from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, when he returned from Afghanistan. David served his country honorably and with distinction. He's a decorated officer. And unfortunately, when he came back from Afghanistan, like a lot of men in your country and in mine, he struggled with the demons of what he'd seen in combat. And at one time, he wouldn't mind me telling you this, he was suicidal. And his lovely wife was so concerned about him that at one stage she did call the police because there were guns in the house. She wanted to make sure he was protected. And in the end, David was taken to a local hospital, given the treatment that he needed. And indeed, this is the most important thing, Chris, the intelligence community and the Defense Department clearly accepted that there was no issue because he was allowed to keep his security clearance, and he continued to serve his country honorably. Now, there was, in the documents that were prepared at the time, there was a thing called a temporary detention order, which transferred him to a medical psychiatric unit, an inpatient program, where he got the treatment that he needed. And this is a document that would be, if the media had done the right thing, it would be in his police department file, in the file in the county sheriff's office. But Dave has checked today because he assumed that the journalist had done his homework and just asked the local sheriff for the files. The sheriff has confirmed it did not come from him. The only other place that had this information is the intelligence community. Dave's personal files inside the intelligence community, where quite properly, when anybody is security assessed, things like this have to be looked at. And somebody
so that's the
inside the intelligence community leaked it.
That's the crumb trail. The Intercept is an interesting outlet for them to go to after all their protection of Snowden. It's interesting that they would want to have anything to do with anything seen as negative. Now, I have two problems with this story. One is that if you're trying to fight transparency by smearing the guy who lit the fire for it, one, it's too late because the horse is out of the barn and we want to know no matter what happens to Grush, with all due respect. But the second one is that somebody thought that playing with his mental health would be a way to discredit him, which is playing into one of the ugliest stigmas in our society. Now, people are going to trust you, Ross. You've acquitted yourself brilliantly in this entire situation. But just in case you're saying, oh, yeah, they're just covering for Grush, listen to him in his own words from the interview. Here it is.
I served in Afghanistan, and I had a friend that committed suicide after I got back, and I dealt with that for a couple of years, and I'm proud as a veteran who did not become a statistic. Totally took care of that issue in my life, and it doesn't affect me anymore.
So you suffered PTSD?
I am, yes, I did.
Did that affect your explanation of what's happening today? Is it possible that you're deluding yourself?
No, absolutely not. I'm very proud to admit that was an issue in my life, and I encourage veterans watching here to get help so they're not a statistic, like a good friend of mine.